Content warning. Strong issues including religious abuse, social isolation, misogyny, political perspectives, as well as my atheistic and leftist points of view are discussed in this video. I don't mean to encourage or endorse anyone's dubious beliefs or actions. The subject's attractiveness is not criticized in this video. Having stated that, I do not support or encourage anyone to make threats or slurs directed at the subject. Please use good judgment. I am breaking my own rules and boundaries here by bringing up this topic once again, but it has come to my attention through other YouTubers' insights and reporting and through Katie Joy's WOACB channel, her video and her posts about Ginger Duggar's new book. I want to let everybody know I haven't read Ginger's book. I don't care to want to read it. This is not going to be a book critique. A book critique would require me to read and read it, think about it, and make my critique as such and do it in a professional and high-level manner. I wouldn't reduce it to like an Amazon type review. I'd want to give it its due diligence and do the author respect by giving an honest and informed opinion. This isn't going to be about that because I really have no idea what's in that book. Also, while I am an atheist, I do not believe in God. I do not believe in the afterlife or anything like that. I do understand why faith would probably be important to people. And I also really don't understand, as a person who's grown up without that, what it's like to live in that kind of situation, in a fundamentalist home with, living a very sheltered and secretive life. I don't know either way how fulfilling it could be or how dangerous it could be, other than some observations. There are many atheists who have been raised that way, who have taken themselves away from that world and try to rebuild afterwards. And hearing their stories is quite harrowing, but I do sense a sense of confusion among some of them, not about their atheism, but when they're growing up and sometimes they don't know whether they're coming or going or if they're worth anything. All of the trials and tribulations of trying to find oneself and to be something in a group where you're expected to think and do something else. I mean, there are relatable circumstances in my own life that I've had to do things like that, or sort of put on a mask to protect myself. And I know other people who couldn't fully be themselves because they were afraid to come out and afraid to be themselves because of what society's reaction would be. It is very isolating when one dominant group makes sure that people are kicked out of the group and they don't have any access to resources. They don't have even access to their own heart and the spirit that makes them human, makes them feel like a human being that matters on this planet. That's what that level of brainwashing can do. And I have to tell you that even though I was not raised in that way, there are many things about growing up in a society that still forwards itself, still moves itself with religious overtures, that it does a lot of community damage when those kinds of ideals cause that create oppression for people, that suppress people's development, um, being outspoken. I mean, many societies do combine the law with religious law and expect that to be the law of the land. Now, the United States isn't quite there, but in the last 70 years, 70 plus years, it's had a great deal of difficulty trying to pass itself off as under one God. You're not even supposed to do that. It's supposed to be a clear separation of church and state, because everybody should be represented. People want the country to become a theocracy. They want people to obey one line of thinking because they're uncomfortable mainly with themselves. They need to feel superior. They need to feel better. Or maybe they feel there's a sense of safety in putting the blame on someone else other than themselves. But I think we can all relate to that kind of thing. We've all experienced something like that. Even the administration now keeps up the status quo. There aren't any atheists, at least outward atheists that I know, in the highest office of the land. There's always been a firm belief in keeping up that religion and the state idealistically are one and the same. You can't have one without the other, essentially. And I personally get tired of going into schools or public buildings or whatever where I have to hear that. It shouldn't even be enshrined in neutral spaces. It's one thing to express yourself in public. There are churches, temples, places of worship. People do all kinds of community things. Churches in my community do a lot to help people who do believe in God, who are also finding oppression through traditional religious places of worth insufferable. They need to find a place where they feel whole, safe, accepted. And people should have that right to do that. But I should also have a right to be free from that. But that is beside the point. What I'm talking about here is that I just do not have that level of insight and understanding. I cannot possibly understand or know what people in that situation feel. It is not a black and white situation. It's either you're in or you're out. I don't think relationships with people are that black and white. It's very complicated. There is a lot of gray area where people can be conflicted about how they feel about their loved ones, about what they're participating in. It's almost, how do I say this respectfully? I don't know. I suppose there are no absolutes. There's no, there there really aren't any borders, so to speak, in that kind of human experience. And what I'm saying is that it's like not, it's either you're in or you're out. And it's not easy for people to transition. And people transition from one faith to another because they find that the way that God is worshipped or the other religion might do a lot better in serving mankind or might be more open to LGBTQ plus people or people of color. They do more for the community. But that's a person's right to do so. That's a person's right to find something better, to find something that is more in line with their beliefs. I'm not against that. Of course, it's not my personal responsibility to step out of the way when laws are being made on old-fashioned beliefs, and I have to be force-fed to believe these things. I don't want to. It's not part of my life. Not at this point. I was looking for a lot when I was younger. I think one of the things I looked for in watching the Duggars was not religion per se, but the strong family unit that I saw on television, like a lot of people related to. And it wasn't a healthy way for me to identify, but I wasn't healthy at that time. I didn't know what those children were going through. I didn't know the whole history. I didn't understand what was going on. I should have used my intellect. I should have kept my good judgment in place, but I was looking for something that was an escape of my daily life, which I thought was worthless, which was so wrong. In many respects, I have a lot of freedom, and as I get healthier, I'm gaining more and more freedom from the superstitious thinkings and the thinkings of worthlessness that I should feel because I exist. That's not right. No one should have to go through that. That's one of these that's one of these feelings that people can have across the board. So whether it's religion giving it to them or they're being told by their parents in other settings, um, it's hard. I don't know, but my video is mainly to discuss about Katie Joy's reaction to Ginger Duggar's latest published book. Latest, I would say, accolade. And I'm not saying that Ginger Duggar's book is praiseworthy or something that I should read to enlighten myself. I'm not even going to touch it. And based on the reviews of other people, I wouldn't even know what it would mean. If I looked at it from her experiences as a person, I may be able to separate whatever dogma might be in there under that, but I can't if it's laden with a lot of religious scripture I just don't identify with, I don't believe in, and I don't want to know about. I suppose I could get through that and see the experience from her eyes, cognitively empathize with her. But I do, I think empathy is a little bit overrated in many terms because while you feel compassion for people, some things are just intolerant. And I think that, in my opinion, the Duggar patriarch and matriarch are they are a lot of things. I mentioned those things before in previous videos. I was very harsh and judgmental, rightfully so. I think that making robocalls about transgender people and basically threatening the very lives and existence of transgender people, in my opinion, is unforgivable. Enabling a son to enabling a son's crimes, enabling his bad behavior, and not giving the emotional support that his victims need is appalling and unforgivable. And I don't forgive. I don't want to be forgiven, although being forgiven is a gift. It's something to be treasured if someone gives it to you, but I'm not a type to forgive. It doesn't settle scores, it doesn't make me feel better. Working things through time and healing from that makes me feel better. I don't have to start with I can't tell you how many times people have told me, "Well, you need to forgive." I said, "No, I do not. It is something I need to give of my free will, but it doesn't make sense for me to do that because it doesn't do anything other than to excuse someone else's bad behavior. I have to work through that. Unfortunately, because I have to pick up the slack for what someone else has done to me and vice versa. I have to move on and heal myself. I wouldn't have any choice to do that because people don't hold themselves to account for anything. And I can understand that. I can understand that Katie Joy might feel that way. I understand that she might have complicated relationships with her own family. She might have complicated relationships with any of the religions that she pursued to find that fulfillment in her past. I don't believe everything that she says and that she's experienced. I think some of it is definitely that she's incorporated into her own. That could be a level of hyper empathy, because she might feel bad about how other people are feeling, and she's looking for some kind of relatable circumstances. I think a lot of us who have felt worthless in our lives, who have been emotionally abandoned, who've been forgotten, whose trust has been broken, where no one has paid for their crimes, so to speak, or come or have done it. The people who have done this stuff to us have never apologized for it. I understand that can turn into a lot of anger. There can be a lot of displaced resentment in that. But I think that where Katie Joy might be coming from, though it seems, is a place of jealousy against the very thing that she could possibly hate of herself, or possibly want to be herself. And maybe she wants to be a perpetual victim of religion and have that level of sympathy and care. I don't see how she would want to be in that position. I don't see how she would want to live in that kind of world. She sees the Duggar girls possibly as having a level of privilege she will never attain herself. She has so many other responsibilities where possibly she thinks that the Duggar women, I should say, not girls, they're not girls, Duggar women don't have a lot of responsibility. She might see the Duggar women as having a lot of resources and opportunities just by their name, and for she's just waiting for the dominoes to fall. She's waiting for the crash to come. And I don't know if she understands the way she looks when she targets these women. I mean, I am not the know-all, end-all of an understanding social justice, but this is not a social justice thing. Even what I'm doing is not based on social justice. It's just offering probably a lower standard of critical thinking about this topic. It's not a very high standard of discussion because I am discussing what I think or how a person might feel which is not something I should be doing typically, but I feel like I should point it out and express it, that, jealousy is the kind of thing that eats us up inside. And when you don't have a good control of your emotional well being, that jealousy becomes distorted. You're not losing anything because you're not like someone else. Don't worship someone else's life. Life is unfair. People are fighting for crumbs everywhere. The way that money is earned and attained is unfair. There, there are plenty enough resources, but people hoard the resources. They control the resources. People are duped into and groomed into buying things that they can't afford or don't need. There doesn't seem to be any financial boundaries. I understand that all too well, personally. So there isn't a lot. And maybe Katie Joy is right about these religious cults dodging tax responsibility or dodging payments to things. I mean, people do this shit every day. Some people can't keep up, and, millionaires like the Duggars may be dodging things. They gave one impression of one thing, but they are another. Um, I think their entire show is one huge grift. And I don't think it was just about money. I think it was certainly about emotional resources that they took from people. They made people believe in the wholesome family unit, but maybe it is a way to recruit people. I don't know. I don't know. That I don't know. But, Katie Joy might be right about those things. But I do think that from this perspective, from what I see, is that she's entirely jealous of the Duggar women for some reason, especially the adult children. And she snarks on them all the time because they're different. But if you go to their channels now, I don't support bigots. I don't support nasty religions that hurt people, or the people who manage them and control them, and things like that. But I do understand when young women are trying to make their way in life. And if and I do I've gone to Joy's channel and have said some things. I've not negative things toward the women. I've gone to Jill's channel and IG posts and posted something. I listen to them. I'm not interested in their religion. I'm not interested in anything that they believed in, but I do listen to them. They're very individual people. They're very different people. They are not carbon copies of their mom, their or their dad. They may or may not believe in this particular religious order, or those values. They seem to have their own identity. Obviously, they have their own channels. They're making money from that. They're getting into brand deals. They are doing other things for their lives. Jill has taken a totally different trajectory with her life. I mean, faith seems like it's still important to her. But that lady's got a great life ahead of her. She has a great life now. And whatever she's going through, I hope she works her way through it, because she has a good head on her shoulders. But I mean, I just listen, if you listen to Jessa, if you listen to Ginger, if you listen to Joy, they're all different. And yes, they might have a complicated relationship with their father. I think that they do. I think they all have, obviously, I would, they have a conflicted, they may have conflicted feelings. So if you see their father at one of their Christmas parties and a sister who hasn't been invited in the family participates, the fact of the matter is that one of the sisters made a decision to invite both her parents and her sister, and it's been speculated that there's been some rift between this one sister and the parents, but yet they're there together. And I don't think it's some conspiracy to bring this religion into the forefront. I think this is just a matter of having human relationships, and it's complicated by a lot of things, but I don't know how these young women feel. I don't know what they're going through. And we don't have that right to know. If Ginger wants to give insight into how she transformed her religion, that's fine. That's up to people who know this thing better to critique it. People who've read the book, the people who have understanding of that, sort of that inside information and perspective of how this particular religion works. Or they can intelligently and intellectually understand what the religion that Ginger has transformed into, has transformed to, was transferred to, sorry. It doesn't, even if Ginger made a mistake and is going from one toxic relationship to another, and she wrote a book about it, what does it have to do with Without a Crystal Ball? If she hasn't read the book, what's the point? Why would anybody listen to her? She's acting out of jealousy. She's acting out of jealousy. She's not doing this for social justice. She's not doing this because she cares about people who are trying to leave it. She's time and time again said, well, they're trying to leave it. It looks like that, but she keeps trying to squish them down again anytime that they exert some kind of independence. These women are still young. They're still young. Is Jill 30 now? 31, 30? She's still young. They still have a lot to grow into as they raise their families. They're growing into themselves and growing into their families and in the world. The more independent that they become, how much is their father going to take control of that? I don't know. I don't think that this, Katie Joy's direction here is, I think it's strictly purely jealous, because Katie Joy can't see anybody trying to figure out their lives. And it may not have anything to do with their originating religion or beliefs. And even if it were, what would it make a difference to her? She goes after these women anytime, because it could be that Katie Joy might feel like she's inferior. She might feel like, why are these women getting all that they can and I have nothing? And I wish KJ would understand that she doesn't have nothing. She has a life. She has a channel. She has a voice. She has a beautiful child. She has a family, and her relationships could be complicated. She may not have received that stable upbringing. I do not think that even the Duggar women had a stable upbringing. I think that they were raised with a lot of secrets and a lot of shame around things. And they were raised to conceal who and what they are and what has happened to them. I don't think that comes from a stable place at all. It would help Katie Joy to understand that she's jealous for nothing. She's absolutely jealous for nothing.